The station drifted with the lazy confidence of something that had survived too many near disasters to worry about the next one. Panels hummed, lights flickered in polite patterns, and somewhere deep in the structure a machine laughed. At least, that was what the translation software insisted the sound meant. She stood in the narrow interface chamber, arms crossed, wondering for the seventh time why humans insisted on placing important experiments next to coffee dispensers that leaked. "This will only take a moment," the human man said, smiling in that apologetic way humans perfected, as if existing were already an inconvenience. "Surface thoughts only, like weather or grocery lists." She glanced at him, long ears twitching despite her effort to appear calm. "Your species stores emotional instability next to lists of food. That alone should disqualify you from this procedure." He laughed softly. "Fair point. If you see bread in there, ignore it. I'm probably just hungry." The humor helped, she told herself. Neural resonance required calm, focus, precision. She adjusted the alien interface band around her temples, feeling the familiar prickle as her consciousness prepared to expand. This was routine. She had skimmed dozens of minds before, quick impressions, harmless clutter, the usual human noise. She took a breath, reached out, and slipped. Something went wrong immediately. Instead of brushing the surface, her awareness sank, like stepping onto what looked like solid ground and finding water instead. She tried to pull back, startled, and only managed to sink further. The chamber vanished. The hum of the station faded. She was inside him. It was quiet, not empty quiet, a structured stillness as if someone had carefully packed away their own thoughts to make room for others. She drifted through memory fragments that did not announce themselves. A long night shift taken without complaint, a mistake claimed as his own though another had made it. Laughter used like insulation, thin but effective. No medals. No recognition, just acceptance. "Hey," she muttered instinctively, forgetting he couldn't hear her this way. "This is not surface material." There was humor here too, strangely enough. A memory of a malfunctioning translation unit announcing catastrophic failure by declaring a joke in 7 languages. His amusement at it was quiet, private, and fleeting, like he hadn't wanted to burden anyone with even that. The realization unsettled her more than the sacrifices did. She tried again to withdraw and felt resistance, not forceful, not intentional, just the natural depth of a mind that had learned to carry weight silently. Somewhere faintly, she sensed his awareness flicker, like someone noticing a draft but deciding it wasn't worth closing the door. Of all the minds, she thought, equal parts alarmed and incredulous, I fall into the one that refuses to make a scene. Outside, alarms began to murmur, politely confused. Inside, she stayed, hovering between humor and awe, knowing already that whatever protocol she had broken, she would not leave unchanged. The first thing she noticed was that time behaved badly here. It did not flow. It shuffled, bumped into itself, and occasionally stopped to apologize. She found this deeply unprofessional for a human mind and said so out loud, even though no one was technically listening. "If you're going to trap an alien consciousness," she muttered, "the least you could do is maintain temporal hygiene." The mind answered not with words but with a sensation, mild embarrassment, followed by a flash of humor so dry it almost evaporated. She felt it and blinked. Humans, she realized, could apologize without ever forming the thought consciously, an impressive evolutionary shortcut. She moved carefully now, learning how to navigate without sinking further. Every time she expected noise, she found restraint. Every time she expected self-pity, she found deflection. Pain was here, yes, but folded neatly, labeled, and placed somewhere inconvenient to reach. She brushed against one such fold and immediately recoiled. "Oh no," she said, "you don't get to pretend that didn't hurt." The memory did not argue. It simply existed. A decision made in a corridor filled with flickering lights. A choice that cost him years he never reclaimed. The mind offered no commentary, no sense of injustice. Just a quiet internal note that this was the correct course of action at the time. She laughed then, sharp and incredulous. "You realize most species would build a monument over this," she said. "At minimum a plaque." Another flicker of humor, faint but unmistakable. Monuments were inefficient, plaques collected dust, better to move on. She felt him distantly, trying not to notice her presence. That more than anything unsettled her. He was aware something was wrong, systems misfiring, alarms probably translating disaster into poetry by now, but he chose calm. He always chose calm. Someone had to. Her long ears tingled, an involuntary reaction she had not felt since training. Emotional resonance was deepening, dangerous, fascinating. She anchored herself with a joke, a mental trick taught to prevent empathic overload. "Congratulations," she announced to the empty mental space. "You have officially exceeded your species' recommended emotional carrying capacity." The mind responded with a memory of laughter shared over burnt food, the kind of laugh that said things were terrible but survivable. It was offered gently, as if to reassure her. She stopped drifting. For the first time since entering, she stayed still. This was not heroism as stories told it. No dramatic swell, no final stand. Just endurance, repeated daily, with humor applied like a thin coat of paint. She understood then why extraction protocols were failing. The mind was not resisting her. It was accommodating her the same way it accommodated everything else. "That's not fair," she said softly. "You should take up space too." Somewhere far above, reality tugged at her, systems trying again to pull her free. She let them try. She wasn't ready yet. The alarms finally lost their patience. They did not scream. They negotiated. Somewhere beyond the edges of perception, systems attempted calm reasoning, then mild panic, then what could only be described as bureaucratic despair. She felt it as a distant vibration, like someone knocking politely on the wrong door. "Not now," she said reflexively, to no one in particular. "I am in the middle of a revelation." Time lurched again, offended. She sighed. "See, this is why your species isn't trusted with reality." She drifted sideways and found herself in a construct that resembled a workshop, though she knew it wasn't literal. Tools lay everywhere, half-finished ideas stacked beside abandoned ambitions. None of them were broken. They were simply postponed. She reached toward one and felt his instinctive reaction, not fear, not anger, just concern that she might trip. Even in his own mind, he worried about others. "That's excessive," she told the air. "You're allowed to be the priority in here." The response came as dry humor again, faint but unmistakable. If he prioritized himself, who would handle everything else? The thought wasn't defensive. It was practical. She found herself laughing despite the growing ache in her chest. "Oh, wonderful," she said. "You're emotionally responsible. That's the most dangerous kind." She felt the external pull intensify. Extraction algorithms, alien and human, were finally aligning. Unfortunately, alignment meant improvisation. The mind reacted to the strain by compensating, redistributing emotional load the way it always did. She suddenly felt a rush of trivial memories, bad jokes, minor embarrassments, moments so small they barely mattered. He was buffering her. "Absolutely not," she snapped. "Do not offload your feelings onto me like excess cargo." The humor spiked, sharper this time. A mental shrug. If someone had to carry it, better him than her. She stopped resisting the pull. Instead, she anchored herself to him deliberately, a maneuver strictly forbidden by about 17 interspecies agreements. The effect was immediate. The alarms translated themselves into nonsense. One system politely apologized for existing. Another announced that everything was fine, probably. She felt him notice her fully then. Not panic, curiosity. A quiet awareness settling in. "So you're really here?" "Yes," she replied, not with words but with intent. "And you're terrible at asking for help." A pause, then amusement, warmer now. Someone had noticed. That was unexpected. The connection deepened, not dangerously, just enough for balance. She shared a fragment of herself in return, long ears twitching when she lied, laughter used to hide doubt, choices made because duty was easier than desire. It felt fair. The pull strengthened again, more precise this time. She knew she would be removed soon. She braced herself, then hesitated. "When this ends," she sent gently, "don't pretend nothing happened." Another pause, then a promise, quiet but sincere. He wouldn't, he didn't know how yet, but he would try. Reality snapped back into alignment. The alarms fell silent, embarrassed. The connection unraveled cleanly at last, leaving behind no damage, just awareness. As she surfaced, one final trace of humor brushed past her, unmistakably his. "Next time, knock." She smiled as consciousness returned, already knowing that neither of them would ever be quite as alone again. The station returned to its usual rhythm with remarkable speed, as if near disaster were simply another scheduled maintenance task. Lights stabilized, gravity stopped fluctuating in protest, and the translation system issued a final announcement declaring that everything was under control and had always been under control, which fooled no one. She sat upright on the interface platform, long ears pressed flat in a way that signaled irritation she had not bothered to hide. "Well," she said, testing her voice, "that was intimate." Across from her, the human man blinked, then exhaled slowly, as though he had just finished holding his breath for several years. "I was going to say educational," he replied, "but intimate feels more accurate." Medical drones hovered, unsure whether to intervene. One of them politely asked if anyone was dying. When neither answered, it drifted away, offended. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Silence settled, not heavy this time, but thoughtful. She studied him openly now, no longer filtered through memory or instinct. He looked the same. That unsettled her more than anything else. "You're still doing it," she said. "Doing what?" Standing like nothing happened. Her long ears twitched. "Your mind nearly tore several laws of physics in half, and you're worried about blocking the corridor." He glanced down, realized he was in the way, and stepped aside automatically. Then he caught himself and laughed, a little sheepish. "Right, that." Something in him had shifted, subtly but undeniably. The humor lingered, but it no longer deflected everything. When he met her gaze, he didn't look away. "I didn't know," he said carefully, "that it looked like that from the inside." She crossed her arms. "Neither did I. My people believe humans are emotionally loud and structurally fragile." A pause. "You are emotionally quiet and structurally ridiculous." "High praise," he said, "I think." They walked together through the corridor, past scorched panels and confused technicians. The station felt different to her now. Not safer, more honest. Systems recalibrated as they passed, recognizing her neural signature and briefly his. The link was gone, but the imprint remained. Later, when reports were filed and blame attempted to land where it always did, she intervened. Calmly, publicly. She named the sacrifices she had seen, stripped of drama but undeniable. The room went silent in a way that felt earned. He didn't thank her afterward. He didn't apologize either. Growth, she realized, could be quiet too. At the viewport, stars stretched like thin scars across the dark. She stood beside him, long ears relaxed now, no longer listening for threats. The future was uncertain. Treaties would change. Protocols would be rewritten with cautious language and too many footnotes. "What will you do now?" he asked. She smiled just slightly. Something inefficient, possibly kind, definitely complicated. He nodded. "Figures." They stood there a while longer, sharing the view, sharing the weight without one carrying it alone. The station